1 week's time, on October 16th, 2025, Pokémon Legends Z-A will be releasing on Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. A mechanically unique spin-off set in the Kalos region, Generation 6, themed around Paris, Legends Z-A is set to trade in the series' traditional style of turn-based battles for a real-time combat system and focus on battle positioning. At the time of writing this video script, around 2 weeks before the release of the game, some information is out there ahead of Legends Z-A's release that can help us to get a sense of the game's potential level of accessibility support for disabled players. As such, I'm taking some time this week to assess what we know about the accessibility in this upcoming Pokémon game, what we hope to see return from previous entries, and concerns about accessibility based on recent games released by the Pokémon Company. Pokémon Legends Z-A, much like Legends Arceus before it, trades in the series' traditional gym leaders and turn-based battle structure to experiment with new mechanics. In the case of Legends Z-A, the big new mechanic on show is real-time Pokémon battles based around timing and positioning. When you send out a Pokémon to battle in Legends Z-A, you'll have your traditional set of Pokémon moves, but rather than PP limiting their total number of uses in a fight, each move features a cooldown timer. More powerful moves take longer to recharge, rather than having fewer charges total available for use in combat. While many standard moves will simply attack the enemy Pokémon when activated, others will require more skill to use effectively. Where Protect previously nullified incoming damage from enemy Pokémon for one turn, the move now offers a few seconds of protection in real time, meaning that the player using the move needs to recognize when an attack is incoming and protect in response or in anticipation of an incoming move, ideally using Protect to block an attack with a long cooldown for maximum effect. Players can also have their trainer run around the battlefield to lead their Pokémon out of the way of incoming attacks, or to better position moves of their own. Attacks such as Stealth Rocks now place damaging objects onto a specific area of the arena, which the enemy Pokémon will need to physically navigate around to avoid taking damage. These elements, while interesting from a gameplay perspective, are obviously going to pose increased accessibility barriers for certain disabled players, such as those with vision, cognitive processing, coordination, and chronic pain-related disabilities. Players will need to keep track of multiple real-time cooldown meters, see objects in the arena and navigate around them, recognize subtle tells for incoming attacks, and react quickly with their own counterattacks, all elements not previously required in most major Pokémon titles. For players with coordination-related disabilities, for example, the transition from moves like Protect being turn-based to now being reaction and timing-based will likely be an increased access barrier. For players with conditions such as ADHD impacting focus, the move to real-time cooldowns may also pose a barrier, with maximised combat output requiring active monitoring of different move status levels, and a resistance to impulsively activating moves as soon as they're available. In particular, I feel like the increased importance of spotting environmental objects such as Stealth Rocks will likely impact players with vision-related disabilities disproportionately. While I don't expect to see high contrast mode offered in Legends Z-A, this feels like the series entry which would most benefit from its inclusion. In addition, taking time to assess the super effective type matchup status of moves, general move information, and similar battle knowledge will be harder to do in real time than it was in a turn-based version of the game. Hopefully players can check this information by pausing during fights, and don't have to be taking damage while trying to read up and remind themselves what a move does. Furthermore, items such as healing potions will now come with a timer limiting the rate at which they can be activated, presumably as an attempt to recreate the pacing of using up one turn cycle in prior games for item usage. Beyond the change to combat mechanics, it appears that much of Legends Z-A's gameplay design will be following in the lead of Legends Arceus, a spin-off title released a few years ago in early 2022. This includes an increased focus on catching Pokémon without engaging them in battle, and encounters with oversized and particularly dangerous variants of creatures. In terms of Legends Arceus mechanics that I personally hope to see return in Legends Z-A, one of my biggest hopes is that we see a return to the Legends Arceus style of notifying players when a shiny Pokémon spawns nearby. For the uninitiated, shiny Pokémon are rare colour variant creatures that appear at a rate of approximately 1 in 4,000. In Legends Arceus, when a shiny Pokémon spawns near the player, a visual sparkle effect appears on the creature, making it easier to spot if, for example, the shiny's colour variance is low from the original creature. Additionally, A sparkle sound effect would play, helping to alert players who were not looking at the shiny as it spawned to know that it was there. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet removed these on-spawn shiny cues, but I am hopeful that they will be added back into Legends Z-A, to help players with vision and cognitive processing disabilities be less likely to miss a shiny spawn when one occurs. While I feel confident in assuming that shiny Pokémon will appear in their shiny colorations while on the overworld, I am curious if there will be a way to detect if a Pokémon is shiny on the overworld, if its shiny form and regular form are hard to visually distinguish. In Scarlet and Violet, for example, players could attempt an auto-battle, with your creature refusing to fight if asked to auto-battle a shiny. Additionally, I'm curious if players will be able to disable autosaves, then manually save next to a shiny Pokémon, and re-encounter it after reloading the game. This was the case for Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet, and allows for the ability to retry shiny encounters. Particularly useful if the Pokémon in question knows a self-damaging move and could defeat itself before capture. One aspect of Legends Z-A we know about prior to release is that, unlike most Pokémon games, if you knock out a wild Pokémon by reducing its HP to 0, in Legends Z-A you'll have a few seconds to attempt to capture it with a Pokéball, rather than it instantly vanishing. This chance doesn't last for very long, you can't just sit trying to repeatedly capture a knocked out Pokémon, but this one extra chance may help to avoid nightmare scenarios where you encounter a shiny without saving, and it uses a move like Self-Destruct right at the start of the battle. One difference that appears to exist between Legends Z-A and the most recent mainline entries in the series, Scarlet and Violet, is that in those titles, enemy trainers never initiated battles with the player in the open world, with it always up to the player to start a conversation to trigger combat. By comparison, at night in Legends Z-A, trainers will initiate combat if they spot the player. Additionally, players can get a free attack at the start of combat by sneaking up on an enemy trainer and sending out their Pokémon, catching the other creature by surprise with an attack. I do have some lingering questions about how Legends Z-A may compare to past series entries. One particularly of interest to me: will Pokédex research tasks from Legends Arceus be returning? In Legends Arceus, players looking to fill out their Pokédex didn't simply need to capture a creature a single time to fill in their Pokédex entry, but needed to engage with each species in unique ways, such as evolving, battling against, and using specific moves as each Pokémon. These tasks often led toward clues on how to evolve species with unique evolution mechanics, for example. I found this aspect of Legends Arceus super engaging as an autistic player, satisfied by repetition and task completion, and would love to see it return in Z-A. Additionally, Legends Arceus had players drop items when knocked out by strong overworld monsters, needing to engage with an online play mechanic to recover lost goods. I personally hope this mechanic doesn't return in Legends Z-A, due to the ways that it made me paranoid at times to take risks while exploring. In Scarlet and Violet, players who dropped from a high height would land safely at ground level before being asked whether they wished to be returned to the height that they fell from, in case their fall was accidental. This was a really nice quality of life mechanic, and is one that I hope we see return to this upcoming title. Of note, Legends Z-A continues the Pokémon series run of entries without voice acting, a feature which, when included, is often useful for low vision players or those with attention-based disabilities. Pokémon Legends Z-A will be releasing day and date on both Switch and Switch 2. While the Switch 1 version appears to run at a maximum of 30 frames per second, with some dips in performance, the Switch 2 version appears at present to run at a locked 60 FPS. This is great news for Switch 2 owners, as it may help to alleviate some motion sickness issues that have impacted some players in the past couple of entries on the original model Nintendo Switch. Lastly, in terms of new Legends Z-A mechanics, players will have the opportunity to take part in 4-player Battle Royale PvP matches, where points are scored by achieving knockouts. These are interesting from an accessibility perspective, as they look set to require a lot more situational awareness than any other format of Pokémon battle in the series, due to their real-time nature, 3D space navigation, and the importance of defending or attacking at key moments where a knockout can be earned or avoided. Beyond these aspects, I thought I would take a look at some of the settings options offered in the past couple of Pokémon titles, to try and guess what settings we might see offered in Legends Z-A. When you first boot up Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, in the game's pause menu, players can alter text speed, change the volume of game elements with some basic audio sliders, alter controller rumble, as well as turn on or off helper functions, which is the previously described setting for allowing you to return to the top of the tall object you've fallen from. Scarlet and Violet players could also decide not to be prompted when a Pokémon was able to learn new moves, instead making those choices later by relearning skipped moves in the pause menu. They were also able to decide whether or not to be prompted before sending Pokémon caught to PC boxes, whether to be prompted about giving nicknames when catching a Pokémon or simply do so later in the pause menu, and whether or not to make cutscenes skippable. As a player with ADHD, I really appreciated the ability to turn off many of these prompts, reducing interruptions to gameplay, and allowing me to hyperfixate on playing, going back and doing micromanagement all at once when I felt ready. When one of your Pokémon levels up in Scarlet and Violet and wants to learn a new move in battle, if you're unsure whether or not to learn the new move that's offered, and if so, which move to delete from your Pokémon to make space, these games allowed you to press a single button to receive a recommendation regarding which move to replace, if any. The system was pretty well designed, and generally kept a creature's moveset balanced, if not necessarily tuned for high-end competitive play. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet did not feature any controller remapping options of their own, and while you could remap controls on a system level, remapping the full game to a single Joy-Con wasn't really viable, primarily due to the fact that there was no automated camera option, meaning that you needed to use both analog sticks to move the character and rotate the in-game camera. While most of Scarlet and Violet could be mapped to one controller, you would either need a controller grip to reach both sticks in one hand, or to switch between controllers periodically, or have a second player assist with camera control. It remains to be seen if Legends Z-A will support any form of automated camera control or fixed camera perspectives. In roughly 1 week, Pokémon Legends Z-A will be out, and we'll have definitive answers to a lot of these accessibility-related questions. For now, I'm going to try my best to get on with other work, and not just sit obsessively waiting for the new game to arrive. Maybe I'll shiny hunt some of my remaining species on my living shiny decks. I can just feel this game ready to consume my life upon release. Thank you so much to this month's Patreon backers, who help make this show possible. You can support the show and everything I do at patreon.com/LauraKBuzz.